there was an article in the New York Times, a front page, homepage article. Is love really addictive? How's that possible? There's a debate going on about it. I had written about it, but sort of people are saying, what are they talking about? You can die from drugs. And so it so happens there are 3 media events now that bear on this question. And the first of them is Netflix has 2 series, 1-year series, and they're both called Dirty John. And the one is about John Meehan. But the funny thing is the second one is about a woman named Betty Broderick. So it's Dirty John season 2, but there's no John involved. So let me just get done with Betty Broderick. Was in love with and married her husband young. He dumped her for a secretary. To say she didn't like it doesn't describe things. She had 4 children with them. She loved her children. She couldn't let go of her husband. She figured, well, I helped to make him who he was. A doctor. He went to Harvard Medical School and one of those guys. He went to Harvard Medical School and Harvard Business School. And then he started suing people for malpractice. In tech, you can make a lot of money doing that. And he dumped her. And she could never let go. So I'll just jump to I'm not going to deal with her. Her solution was she went to his bedroom and shot him and his new wife dead. So when you think about, gosh, and she's in prison, she'll never get out. And she had 4 kids. It's hard to carry on your relationship that she loved. It's hard to carry on a relationship when you're, serving life in prison. So she killed for love. She's a talented person. She wasn't going to be rich when she got divorced, but she was going to be, her husband was going to send all of her kids to college. I mean, she wasn't going to have a bad life, but she couldn't give up on that relationship. So let's go back to John Meehan. The Dirty John story is about a woman who was in her 50s, who was doing a dating app and met John Meehan. He's a big, good-looking guy. He claimed that he was an anesthesiologist. She had been married and divorced 4 times before. What's it say to you when somebody's been married and divorced 4 times and is looking for love on a dating app? What's that make you think of?
Something's not stable in her quest for relationships.
Good summary. Another way of putting it is she's addicted to love. It's sort of like she's saying, well, there's something wrong with all of those husbands. And John Meehan was a fake from the word go. He would show up in worn and tattered med scrubs because he was essentially homeless because he had just gotten out of prison for his previous mishigas, his previous scams. He's a man who lived his whole life scamming. But ironically, he's a big, good-looking man. And he actually had a nursing license. He married one woman, got through nursing school with her, and he got an anesthesiology specialty. So he's a man with talent. And he met her. And within a couple of months, this woman with 4 children, who had 4 husbands and 4 divorces, married Dirty John Meehan. And things went downhill from there. His kids, John Meehan is an example of a talented, crazy person. His whole life is geared. He did have an anesthesiology nursing degree. He could make a living, but he didn't want to make a living. He wanted to scam, and he had a gift for reading people and women especially. This is so different from you. If you're trying to sell if you're a big looking guy and you're trying to sell yourself to random women, what do you try to convince them of to make them let you do anything?
I'm kind, I'm competent, I have money, I can help you survive.
I love you. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
It so happens that the woman that he hooked up with this last time, he didn't survive. The article in the Times was Kyla Yu. The woman in the 50s was Deborah Newell. It didn't take much to see that he claimed he was an anesthesiologist, a specialty. Deborah Newell had a very extensive interior decor. She was semi-wealthy. She's a very smart woman. If a man shows up in dirty scrubs and he's living out of a trailer park and he's not really a medical doctor, and if he spends all day hanging around the house buying and selling pharmaceuticals, would you think she might pick up on that?
You might imagine.
And she had 4 children, 3 daughters and a son, and her two oldest daughters immediately, they started investigating. They hired a private investigator. Well, he had a long criminal record. He'd been in prison. He had a long criminal record. There was scores of legal impositions against him, contacting women. What's the word for that? I'm having it. What's that called when they get, you're not allowed to contact somebody?
Yeah, restraining order.
A restraining order. So he has, and you can look this all up on the, they found out about it and they put an attachment to his car and they found he was going to drugstores and to doctor's offices. He's selling pharmaceuticals that he got off wherever he got them. And eventually they presented that to Deborah Newell. And they said, Mom, he's a scam artist. But there's something you need to know about Deborah Newell. By the way, we talked about Hacks. And the woman who starred in Hacks is one of the great actresses of all time. She plays Deborah Newell's mother. Deborah Newell had an older sister Deborah Newell was very attractive. Her older sister was very attractive. She had a very insecure husband, Deborah Newell's older sister. And at some point she went to her mother and said, Mom, he won't even let me go to the store on my own. You can just imagine that dynamic. He's looking at his beautiful wife and he's thinking, I'm a schlub. How's she going to stick with me? And so she left him and he killed her. Came over her house and shot her in the neck one time. And Deborah Newell's mother forgave the man who killed her daughter. It's part of our religious thing of forgiveness. But one of the reasons she would say was he really loved her. And to understand love addiction, you might ask yourself, well, can you kill the person you love? And in a certain view of love, you love a person so much that if they want to leave you, you can't exist. So you kill them.
Love a person to the extent that you believe that they make you whole.
That you can only exist. I mean, he went to prison, but he didn't go to prison. Deborah Newell's mother testified on behalf of the man who killed her daughter. So they don't let you just walk away, but it was voluntary manslaughter or something like 10 years. He got out after 6 years and she kept dealing with him. Deborah Newell didn't deal with her ex-brother-in-law, But her logic was quite similar. She was susceptible to the idea that Dirty John Meehan loved her. And that's how he sold himself. He said, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. Something about that claim. I love you so much. You're the most beautiful woman in the world. It works for some people in some circumstances. And then what happens when they try to break free? Then what happened? Then what did Dirty John do?
When I forget her name, the woman tried to break free from him.
When she said she actually tried to get the marriage annulled. They went to a private investigator and they said, well, look at his record. Mm-hmm. He's been in prison for glomming people, scamming people, and selling drugs. And he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, okay.
She decided to leave him. And this first comes back and convinces her, a smart woman, that all of those...
Let me guess, because this is perfect, because I haven't seen it yet. I could see it going two ways, or maybe both of them. I can imagine him leading with something like, I am like a scammer, I'm a piece of crap, but, the only time I've been well in my life and, felt whole and felt good is with you. I need you to survive. And I could also see the whole pitching that you need me to survive.
And he maybe because of his drug use, he did have medical problems. And he said exactly what you said. You're the only way I'm going to survive. So he needs you. And I love you. And after his whole scam life had been revealed, she got back together with him. And that was just too much for her daughters. And then again, it was complete, and he's stealing from her. Maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And he hurt her business. Because when she pulls away from him, people like Dirty John, they strike out at you. And they'll say, you don't know what life is going to be hell. And at some point, what makes something really make you think something's an addiction? When somebody pursues something to such an extent that they destroy themselves. So she went to one lawyer and he says, well, I don't understand why he would try and ruin your business, because that's what's keeping him, in drugs and money.
Self-destructive, right?
How does that make sense? And he took her Mercedes and set it on fire. And the lawyer says, I had to talk to a psychologist friend. He wants to punish you and to be proven right more than he actually wants to survive. So in his own way, with Deborah Newell, you're saying, how could a smart woman give up her life? And obviously, she's been married 4 times. Her children were remarkably well adjusted, all of them. But her youngest daughter was 25 at the time. They all worked hard. They all loved their mother. But her youngest daughter was a space cadet. And her favorite activity was to watch zombie apocalypse movies. And she was a zombies apocalypse expert. So John Meehan trails Deborah Newell's younger, Cara is her name, youngest daughter to her apartment. And he has a knife. He's about 6'2". She's about 5'3". He's not in the good shape he used to be in. But he's not going to lose a fight to a 5'2" girl. And he comes with a car packed with those wires that they used in January 6th. They're going to wrap her up and kidnap her. He comes out with a knife. And Cara Newell kills him. He drops the knife. She kicks him, bites him. She takes the knife and starts stabbing him in the back. And then finally, she stabs him through the eye. And the cops said, this is impossible. How does a 5'2" girl kill a 6'2" man who outweighs her by 50 pounds? And the cops said, how did you don't look like a street fighter. And she said, well, watching Zombie Apocalypse, I understood that the only way you kill a zombie was stabbing him through the eye. And the detective says, well, what were you thinking? She said, I was thinking kill or be killed. So this one doesn't end up, but let's go back to Deborah Newell. Deborah Newell loved her children. She came within this much of having her daughter killed by this crazy nut that she thought she was in love with. And just by the grace of God, the cops still didn't understand it. They said, I've seen a lot of small girls attacked, and she was unarmed. I've never seen one kill her assailant before. I honestly, I don't know how this happened. And so out of a miracle, her daughter saved her own life. And, I don't want to cast doubt. I mean, Deborah Newell's alive and well now. Do you think she might ever go get on an app again? A dating app again? I mean, I don't know the answer to this. What would you guess?
It's hard to imagine that she would, but it's still possible, even likely, if she hasn't reconciled what happened, how she contributed to what happened.
There's another top 10. I'm trying to find the name of it. I watched all of it. You can see where my taste runs to. What's a dating app called? It's 2 words, this show. It's a guy who dates women. He claims he's an Israeli who claims he's the son of a diamond millionaire. So here's a guy who his only income is getting women to give him money. And so that's his entire income. So he finds women. He's a good-looking guy. He finds women on the dating app. And, I'm just not finding the name of it. Somebody's going to know what it is. And he convinces them, and he flies them all over. He flies them all over Europe. And they say, oh, this guy really loves me. And then at some point he says, people are trying to attack my father's business. I need to borrow money from you.
Tinder Swindler.
Tinder Swindler. Thank God we got that.
Yeah, Google.
So here you are. You go on a dating app. The guy's good looking. He sends pictures from I have to travel all over to sell diamonds. He wears incredibly expensive watches and designer clothes. And then somewhere down the line, he has you take out loans and give him tens of thousands of dollars. He's got to make that transition. And like Crazy John, Dirty John Meacham, he's good at it. He convinces the woman, you're the one woman I've really, really, and like John Meacham, he's doing this with dozens of women. And he convinces the woman he really loves her, wants to take care of her. He's under attack. You've got to help me. Take out loans and you owe me $60,000 or $100,000. And they go into debt for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he's always kind of unavailable. You can't spend that much time with him because he's flipping things around. So the whole show begins with one woman. I think she's $600,000 in debt. And she said, oh, I was so amazed by him. And just like Deborah Newell, she got hooked up with him remarkably fast. He said, I really love you. Let's get an apartment together. I'm going to be with you the rest of your life. And then at the very end, she and 3 women finally, he's done it with dozens of women, but 3 women sue him. They don't get their money back, although they're all, they're all making money now. And he does get arrested because somebody who's doing this is having fake passports and all. He gets arrested in Greece and he goes to prison in Israel. And he's out after a couple of years, and now he's back. They show him with the supermodel. He's back in practice.
Same shtick, huh?
And they interview the woman who opened the show with, and she had been doing these dating apps for a long time, and none of them had worked out. Obviously, she's still looking for this guy. And at the very end of this was very well done. At the very end, the interviewer says, well, would you go on a dating app again, looking for love? And she goes, and you see her light up, and she goes, yes, I'm still looking for love. Even though it ruined her life, she thought she was being attacked by these jewel thieves. She's hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. You just see her, boom, flash up with the concept of finding somebody like the swindler. What is he called again? The what swindler?
Tinder Swindler.
So love is the most motivating, powerful, people do bad things for heroin and for gambling. But generally, you're not going to ruin your life forever. You're not going to die usually from gambling addiction, certainly. And really, if you take care with heroin, you're going to be okay with, that as well. You're not going to die.
Heroin doesn't proposition you or tell stories to you or make you feel involved with it. It's an object,
With Deborah Newell and with the woman on the swindler thing, he comes back at you. I need you. If you leave me, you'll never be free of me. I'm going to track you down to the end of your life. Heroin, it's just you against heroin. It's just you, really. People try and embody heroin. Oh, heroin's always calling for you. Heroin isn't texting you. One of the women who finally blew the whistle on him, she had hundreds of texts from him when he was really down and out, the swindler. And he really, he needed her to get money for him. She got even with him a little. She got him to give her all of the designer clothes, and she sold them. But so we've just talked a little bit about how Dirty John and the swindler, the dating app Swindler, which are both big videos, series now, exemplify how love is can be the desire, the belief in this mistaken notion of love can be the most destructively motivating force you can imagine.
It's incredible also that I haven't seen either of these shows that you brought up. So I've got some watching to do.
Well, another way to phrase that is, why is Stanton Peele? So, there's a lot of things to watch. I'm going to make a confession now. This could be Dirty John was a series in the LA Times. I've read the series 2 times. I've watched the video. It's 9 series long. Dirty John 3 times, and the Betty Broderick one 2 times. And now they have a podcast. Takes a little commitment of time to listen to an entire, I think it's 7 series podcast, and it's well done. The guy who wrote the original article for the LA, I'm sure he's doing fine now. He was doing that as an employee. He didn't write a book. He's very good in the podcast. He himself explores, is it an accident that Deborah Newell's sister was murdered by her husband? That's kind of an unusual coincidence, isn't it? And that her mother, their mother, still kind of loves the man who murdered. They're a family that believed in love so much. So the guy who wrote that, the podcast, the guy who wrote the original LA series, he narrates it. He's a talented man. It's a great exploration of that mindset. And he doesn't say to Deborah Newell, he's like a good therapist. He doesn't say, you're a smart woman. How did you end up with a total crook who almost killed you? He doesn't say that. He says, but he'll say, so you went back with him, even though you knew there were all these restraining orders. But he doesn't imply that
helps her get in touch with the reality of her motivations.
He takes her on face value. He's a reporter. It's not his job to get her to stop believing in love. He just has to explore fully the contour, and he does a great job. So I don't even have his name handy, but it's some of the best psychological reporting I've ever heard. So I've watched the series 3 times. I've watched the Betty Broderick series twice. I've read the original LA Times series 3 times. And now I just got done watching the podcast. So listening to the podcast. So
the least they could do is send you a t-shirt after this.
Yes. Well, we've got some material out of it. All right. Happy Light Process program. And we explore in the Light Process program how love can be among the most negatively motivating addictions. Not real love. Love is the opposite of addiction, but there's a certain version, a variety of love that can drive people to these negative extremes.
And that helps inform what it is that people are addicted to, whether it's a person or any other kind of involvement or drug. So
it's that whole engulfing experience that captivates your entire being that you can't be, people take drugs and quit them all the time. When it suffuses your being and you say, this is me, I can't live without it, that's a real addiction.
All right, Stanton. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Good to see you.